got this email asking me if I would speak at the same podium that Secretary Albright was going to be speaking at, I went, okay, I will accept that. So it's a great honor to attend the SPU Downtown Business Breakfast for the first time. When I was a student at SPU, New York Times columnist David Brooks spoke, and I, being the poli-sci student wanted so badly to attend, but no one invited me, and believe me, I asked. So imagine my delight when 10 years later, my college roommate Jessica, who is right there, my college roommate Jessica invited me to sit at her dad's table for this morning's breakfast, and then imagine my double delight when weeks later Marge asked me to speak. Truth be told, I accepted this opportunity just so I could see which pin Secretary Albright was wearing. She's wearing a beautiful flower pin, by the way, and I totally got a selfie with her. Today, I want to talk to you about building cathedrals. A decade ago, Dr. Bill Foege spoke at the World Health Assembly to all of the ministers of health of the countries of the world. He said, the work that you're doing is like the work of those 900, 1,000 years ago who started building cathedrals. They invested in something that would take hundreds of years to complete. So they were aware that they would never live to see the finished product. But they knew their investments were important for humanity, so they invested anyway. What is your cathedral? The blueprint for my cathedral comes from the words of Jesus, who says, whatever you've done unto the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you've done unto me. I was first introduced to global health while on a Seattle Pacific Reach Out international trip to Sierra Leone in West Africa. I will never forget the first person I saw with leprosy, or the man who told me that malaria is just something his people learned to live with, as he himself sweat through a malarial fever. I knew that malaria wasn't as minor as he was making it out to be. But in a setting with so few resources, what choice did he have but to be optimistic? When I returned to SPU, I changed my major to international affairs and studied geography and cultural context with the incredibly dedicated doctors Kathleen Braden and Ruth Eddiger. I don't know if they're in this room, but Dr. Eddiger, if you're in this room, know that I can still pretty much name every capital of every country in the world because of you. It's quite serendipitous, though I don't believe in serendipity, that SPU asked me to speak at this monumental time in global health. How many in this room, I would love to see a show of hands, have seen polio in your lifetime? Quite a few. In the US, polio was the most dreaded disease of the 20th century, and here we stand firmly in the early 21st century, and we're this close to wiping out polio globally. Last week, you might have seen that India has been declared officially polio-free. This incredible accomplishment required the Indian government and global health organizations to map out the more than 2 million people who had slipped through the cracks of mainstream health services. Health workers were literally knocking on the doors of families who lived in slums to make sure their children had been vaccinated. It took expansive vision, painstaking effort, and dogged determination to remove a disease in a country that only 5 years before had accounted for half of the world's polio cases. That's a cathedral. Jonas Salk started building that cathedral when he created the polio vaccine in the 1950s, but he's not alive today to see it. 400 cases of polio remain in the world, in 3 countries, Nigeria, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. Eradication is possible. We've seen it before, once, with smallpox. And that man, Dr. Foege, who challenged health ministers to build cathedrals, knows something about building them himself, because he is, in fact, the person who is credited with leading the team who eradicated smallpox. Where you are, Seattle, Washington, is one of the leading centers for global health work in the world. PATH, Seattle Biomedical Research Institute, the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center, on this street that we're on, Westlake Avenue, and then right up the street, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, along with hundreds of local nonprofits, are building cathedrals to eliminate diseases like HIV, malaria, tuberculosis, and rotavirus. Their work has likely already impacted you, but it's your grandchildren or your grandchildren's grandchildren that will ultimately see the cathedral of a world free of AIDS. The world needs us to build great cathedrals that we'll never live to see. So what's your cathedral? I challenge you with that today. And I woke up this morning and I realized I left something really important out of this. I think that there is an incredible responsibility of everyone in this room. If you're in this room, you have much. There is a very famous saying, to whom much is given, much is required. I know where that saying comes from. I think that we've all been given so much, and we have an obligation to speak up on behalf of those who have not been given so much. Much is required of us. I challenge you in this room to think about half of the world's population that doesn't have access to education, that doesn't have access to health services. I challenge you to think about what you can do on behalf of the world's women. Women, especially in this room, you have a unique voice. You have a unique role to play. And I hope that you use your voice to speak up on behalf of women. And men, you only benefit when women stand with you on equal footing, on equal ground. I think the greatest cathedral that we can build for our generation is women's equality around the world. So I want to leave you with this. I think it's no coincidence that two women are speaking on this podium today. And it's been my great honor, but I think it would be an even greater honor if you left this room and thought about the cathedral that you want to build in this world. And I challenge you to build a cathedral that empowers women. Thank you very much.